month of March recorded a significant jump in inflation to 19.4%, the highest since August 2009. This was influenced by increasing prices of foodstuff as well as transport fares. They all recorded inflation rates higher than the national average. There is more in this report.
The March inflation rate, the highest in 13 years, can be attributed to the invasion of Ukraine by Russia, which has affected food supply. This has widened the gap between food inflation, which rose to 22.4%, and non-food inflation rate, which stood at 17.1% at the end of March. This indicates that prices of food commodities have dominated overall inflation for the period. Here is government statistician Professor Samuel Kobna Ini.
If you look at the trend over the last 3 months, one would want to assume that the effect of the war in Ukraine, if anything, is now telling on inflation, given that for the months of January, February, the highest inflation was on housing, water, electricity, and gas, and now we're seeing the drift away from housing, water, electricity, and gas, and it's now telling on transport and food. So it's clearly the pronouncement that the war is having effect on these two items. That is why now we see a change around away from housing, water, electricity, and gas to transport having the highest division rate of inflation of 27.6%. So from that trend perspective, one can surmise that it is now that we are beginning to feel the effect, if any, of the war on inflation in Ghana.
For the first time in a while, the Bono Ahafo region recorded the highest rate of inflation across the country as the result of a significant jump in vegetable prices from the region.
From a geographical perspective, we continue to see variations across the administrative regions, and for the first time we are seeing the Brong Ahafo region recording the highest rate of inflation of 23.1% and the Upper East region recording the least inflation of 12.5%, suggesting that a more than 10 percentage point between the region with the highest inflation and the region with the lowest inflation.
Locally produced items also recorded a significant increase as against imported items.
Well, joining us tonight, economist Dr. Edu Susah-Kodia to discuss this latest inflation figure. Great to have you on the program tonight, sir. We know what this essentially means is that the cost of living is going up. However, how does this, I should say, rather hurt the economy further?
The question again, how will it hurt the economy?
Further, yeah.
Yes, of course. I mean, the cost of living will rise. Inflation eats away the real value of the money in our pockets, as people would say. Now, people can really feel it in their pockets. Unlike previously, when inflation rate was low, people would say, we can't feel it. Now they can feel it. And so it will eat away the value of money, the purchasing power of the monies in our hands. So no matter the amount of money that you take to the market, it will buy little. And it is not a good sign. This is not what you want in the economy. Something must be done drastically and must be done now before things get out of hand. The last thing you want is for your population to starve. I don't think that Ghanaians deserve any starvation. We should be able to. And so there should be programs from the government to mitigate these effects.
Okay, most countries, if not all, are feeling the pinch of Russia's war on Ukraine, and most of the solutions I'm hearing to curtail inflation, those seem to be long-termish, like pumping money into a Greek, boosting local production, cutting down on imports. Just wondering, in the short term, how can government manage this and ease the impact on individuals and businesses? You say we need a solution now.
Yes, we have sat down as a country and allowed this problem to deteriorate. Now we are feeling the impact. We were told that the government has the planting for food and that we have abundance of food at a lower price. And this raises questions about the success of the program. And we have to, first of all, begin with the little items that the government can, if they can subsidize, then they should subsidize. For example, government needs fertilizer now. If farmers are crying that they don't have access to fertilizer and therefore it will increase the price of food, then I think that government must intervene to subsidize fertilizer in the short term so we can have an all-year-round production. We don't want any starvation in the country. We don't want any hunger in the country. And so going forward, the program must be intensified to increase local production in the country. Another solution that I want to propose is for the government or all stakeholders to, take this recommendation by weighing all foodstuffs on the market. I think when you travel to other African countries, they weigh it on a scale. So maybe tomatoes or cassava or plantain or fish, whatever you want to buy, you go to the market, it is weighed on the scale. And so we can start by doing this too. The essence of it is to harmonize all prices so that you know that a kilo of yam is, cost this maybe 10 cedis. And it is 10 cedis from Medina Market to Makola to the northern part to Accra or to Volta. That's what I mean. So we can harmonize prices and stabilize, food inflation within the shortest possible time. And then going forward, we must really ensure local production, have access to fertilizer. There are some little items that we can produce in the country, like corn, wheat, and all these we can produce in the country. And so we have to be inward looking and intensify the Planting for Food and Jobs program.
And what's your projection for the coming months? Are we going to see further hikes in inflation, do you think, and by what margin? Seeing that the war is not ended yet, however, I should also point out there seems to be a lull in the rate of increase when it comes to fuel prices.
Well, we know, the fuel prices are increasing from two sources. One, from the international crude oil price due to the war because of the shortage in supply. And two, because of the cedi depreciation. And thank God that the e-levy has been passed, and therefore government can now have access to the capital market to borrow externally to bring in forex. So again, you have seen that the market has already reacted to the government short-term policies to stabilize the cedi. So for the cedi depreciation, it's okay, it is stabilized now. The only concern now is the crude oil price. And so yes, there will be further increment, but the rate at which it will increase will slow down because of the stability in the cedi. So let's hope that the war ends now. But if it continues, we expect an increment in inflation again, but not too much, not so much, because the depreciation of the cedi has been stabilized, and I think it's a good sign. But again, it comes back to the other side of inflation. So because the exchange rate has always been affecting the non-food inflation. The food we know, there are some important items, but largely we can control it with our agri production. So I think that the future does not look too bad because of the stability that we are enjoying now. It should be better. Hopefully, we may not go beyond 20%. Hopefully, we may not go beyond 20% in the coming months.
You give us hope. Dr. Idowu Sissoho Akodie, economist with the University of Ghana. I appreciate your time with us tonight.